Welcome, everyone, to Awesome Riff of the Day number 6. Today, we're going to have a look at the fantastic and underappreciated riff to Van Halen's Drop Dead Legs from their 1984 album entitled, fittingly enough, 1984. Now, if you're new, what the bloody hell do I got going on here? Jesus Christ. Oh. All right, let's back this up. Take two. Welcome, everybody, to Awesome Riff of the Day number 6. Today, we're going to have a look at the fantastic and underappreciated riff to Van Halen's Drop Dead Legs from their 1984 album entitled... Okay, all right. I'm having fun. Take 3. Welcome, everybody, to Awesome Riff of the Day number 6. Today, we're going to have a look at the fantastic and underappreciated riff to Van Halen's Drop Dead Legs from their 1984 album entitled, fittingly enough, 1984. Now, if you're new to my channel or just randomly stumbled upon this video, a bit about the format for this series. My performance of the riff at the beginning, about a 5 to 8 minute commentary, and then a tutorial on how to play it. So if you're wondering why the hell is this guy talking so much before the tutorial, well, that's why. It's part of my shtick, because believe it or not, people seem to like listening to me talk about rock and roll stuff. And I'm kind enough to oblige them, so I know. So if you're just here for the tutorial, you can skip ahead 5 to 7 minutes or so, and it should be somewhere around there. Well, this is the one. This song, in a roundabout way, is responsible for getting me playing guitar again after a 25-year break from the instrument. Some of you know my backstory, as I've told it a couple of times in a few different videos, but I'm going to quickly recap as to how it relates to this song. I was a massive Van Halen fan back in the late 70s, early 80s, and Eddie Van Halen was a huge influence on my playing as a teenager. I played and practiced guitar quite seriously when I was a young lad, and then decided to hang it all up when I was 28 years old. I didn't touch a guitar for the next 25 years. Then, one evening at dinner about 3 years ago, my 13-year-old daughter turned to me and said, "I've been listening to Van Halen. Not that crappy Sammy Hagar stuff, the good stuff with David Lee Roth." She might have well as told me that she had just walked on the sun. "You've been listening to what?" I said after I pulled my jaw off the floor. "How the hell did you get into Van Halen?" She had heard the song Drop Dead Legs on WWE as the intro music for one of the wrestlers. Now, why she was watching WWE, that's another story. But anyway, she liked it a lot and looked up who it was, started listening to it, and then started listening to their other stuff, and then became completely obsessed with Van Halen for the next number of months. She wanted to learn guitar because of this, so I decided to teach her. As these twice-a-week lessons progressed, I found myself falling in love with the guitar all over again and started playing more and more on my own when she wasn't around. Until here I am now with a YouTube channel, practicing and playing 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day, and pumping out a couple of videos a week as part of my effort to play my way through Guitar World Magazine's top 100 solos of all time, amongst these videos and other stuff. And it all started with this song. If she hadn't heard it, God knows if she'd ever discover this behemoth of a rock band from the early 80s, other than maybe just in passing. Plus, she'd probably never have shown interest in the guitar, and my guitar would most likely still be rusting under my bed to this day. I owe all of this to Drop Dead Legs, like I said, in a roundabout way. Though not my favorite Van Halen album, that designation would go to Women and Children First. I do think that 1984 was Van Halen's most focused album. Van Halen, once they finally got signed and released their first album in 1978, rose so fast and toured so extensively that they were under constant pressure to produce new material for from their record label. After their debut, every single subsequent album up until 1984 was rushed. Rushed to write the music, rushed to get into the studio and record the music, rushed to get it mixed and finalized so that this musical juggernaut that was the mighty Van Halen could get back on the road making bucket loads of money for all involved. As popular and as fantastic as some of these albums were, none of them achieved the level of focus and perfection that the band, and especially Eddie Van Halen, would have liked to achieve with them. There just wasn't time. If they were on the road, there was pressure to get them back in the studio. If they were in the studio, there was pressure to get them back on the road. Somewhere in all of this, music needed to be written, rewritten, perfected, practiced. The clock for this band for those 6 years was constantly ticking. This constant pressure finally hit a roadblock with 1982's rather disappointing Diver Down album, clocking in at about 30 minutes with half of the songs being covers and a few instrumentals thrown in to pad out the running length. It was short on new material, aside from just being, well, short. It was like 30 minutes long. And why? Because of record company pressure again to get a new album out. They had released the cover of Roy Orbison's Pretty Woman as somewhat of a stopgap between albums, but the song, much to everyone's surprise, took off and became their biggest hit to date. We need a new album. We need a new album became the battle cry from Warner Brother Records. Thus, the band hit the studio, much to their chagrin, again in a rush and produced the rather half-assed effort Diver Down. Now, earlier when I said that 1984 was Van Halen's most focused album, herein lies the difference. They finally said, enough. We will not rush through this album. This one we're getting right and on our terms, no matter how long it takes. Mostly Eddie, I think. Spearheaded by Eddie's vision for the album, it took them months instead of the usual couple of weeks, and it basically destroyed the band. They would never record again with this particular lineup, but they produced their most successful and biggest chart-topping album of their career. Aside from the hits Jump, Panama, I'll Wait, Hot for Teacher, the real gem from this album, in my opinion, is the somewhat underrated Drop Dead Legs, my favorite track from the album, and my daughter's, a song that would have fit perfectly on Van Halen 2 or Women and Children First, I think, from like 3-4 years earlier. Never released as a single, it's generally considered one of Van Halen's best and most underappreciated songs, and in my opinion, one of Eddie's best ever riffs. And this is from a guy who had created dozens of incredible and famous riffs. There's nothing easy about this one. It's business all the way through this riff. Beautifully constructed. It's one of Eddie's most difficult riffs to play. Quick, funny little story before we have a look at how to play it. I always had a hard time understanding half of the stuff that David Lee Roth sang. They never provided lyrics with their albums, and I would fumble my way through the lyrics of whichever song I was singing along to at the time. One afternoon with my daughter Charlotte in the car, we had Drop Dead Legs on the stereo, and I was singing along to it. Drop dead legs, pretty smile, hurts my head, gets me wild. Dig that steam, giant butt. She turns to me and says, "You don't know what he's saying, do you?" And I said, "No, I don't. What's he saying there?" And poor Charlotte, she turns red as a beet and says, "Giant butt." "Oh, that's awesome," I said. "Dig that steam, giant butt." Every time afterwards, when I had Drop Dead Legs playing in the car with her, I always made an extra effort to sing giant butt a little bit louder to get the inevitable "Dad." Anyway, enough chit-chat. Let's have a look at how to play Drop Dead Legs by the great Eddie Van Halen from 1984. All right, let's have a look at this fantastic riff to Drop Dead Legs by Eddie Van Halen. We are in drop D tuning. So you get your standard tune guitar, take your low E string and drop that down to a D. And you're going to want to use your bridge pickup on this one and a good Eddie Van Halen crunch. I've got the saturation dialed back just a hint for this tutorial. And I've also got some chorus on my performance, which I don't have a whole lot of chorus on my guitar right now. So we are starting off with our volume cranked down to about a 3 for the soft opening. So crank your volume down to about a 3 to kill some of the saturation. That's good. So we're going to start with an A major power chord right here at the 2nd fret. And softly strum that. And you're going to ride those 3 notes up the fretboard twice. And one final hit back at the 2nd fret of the B. And then you're going to put your index finger on the 4th fret while holding that bar in place. Your ring finger on the 4th fret of the D and your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, which is creating a D chord. It's kind of like the start me up chord. And that's a D chord because those are the 2 notes from your D right there, plus that one, and that note, same note, just a different octave. So that's D. And you're going to strum down that D chord. And then you're going to grab that note at the 4th fret of the D string and slide it into 6, keeping the shape, the chordal shape with it. When you slide it in, you're going to grab on the upstroke the B and maybe a bit of the G as well. And then you're going to slide it back and do the exact same thing. And then you're going to grab the 4th fret of the D again, and then back to the A power chord. So. Now, that is the first pass through of the opening phrase. The second phrase, everybody plays it wrong. I've watched a number of tutorials, and they're all teaching it wrong. I've watched a number of performances of Drop Dead Legs on YouTube. Almost everybody's playing it wrong. Eddie Van Halen himself plays it wrong. He's allowed, though. Here's what everybody seems to be doing. Repeating the opening phrase twice, and that's wrong. That's not right. Even Eddie Van Halen plays it like that live, but that's not what's on the recording on 1984. Here's what's on the recording. So the first one I've already showed you. This is the second one. You're going to slide from 1 to 2 on the D string, down to and back into that bar again, grabbing the B string, skipping the G, and then grabbing the D string, the 2nd fret, back down to the B string again, skipping the G on the way up and skipping it again on the way down. See that? And then back into that D shape again. And here's where everybody seems to be playing it wrong. Here's what's on the album. That is grabbing the 5th fret of the D string, and these first 3 notes are palm muted, and then you stop palm muting. So it's 5 to 4 to 6. And when you get to the 6, you're back into that shape again, that D shape from here, but in this position 2 frets higher. And then you're going to ride up the 3 notes from the B to the G to the D, and then slide it back 2 places and do the exact same thing. And then back into the A power chord. Do you hear the difference between the first phrase and the second phrase? Big difference. I don't know where everyone's getting this sliding both times. So let me run through up to that point. Slide that time. No slide this time. And then the third time you're going to do that 1 to 2 again on the D string, down to the second of the B, and then you're going to play all 3 notes, the D, the G to the B. And then you're going to go into an F shape. And when you hit that F, lightly strum that F, you're not going to hit the bottom string, and you're not going to catch any of the A string. It's just those 3 notes. And as you hit it, you gradually increase your volume. And when you get it to full volume, you're going to palm mute it with your right hand and kill it. So, and then, now we're into the heavy part of the riff. So let me just run through the whole opening one more time. And now we're into the heavy bit. And that is basically we're back into that A power chord again. We're going to ride up those notes from the B to the G to the D, palm muted, and then we're going to grab the 4th fret of the A, and then down to a D. You don't really need to get into a full D shape here. You're not going to want to touch the bottom string anyway. The open D and the 2nd fret of the G is enough to get that D shape there. If you can get your finger down into that, get the 3rd fret of the B in there as well. Power to you. And then we're into this. So D, that is the 5th fret of the low E, that G note there, up to the 7th fret, open D. We're skipping the A string. And this part is tricky. A lot of people are doing all kinds of crazy stuff to try and replicate this, and some are using whammy bars. This is what Eddie Van Halen's doing. He is grabbing the 3rd fret of the A, that C note there, bending it using his middle finger because it's a little tricky to bend a full step this close to the end of the fretboard. Bending it down, you can't bend up because you'll be off the fretboard. Bending it down, but up to a D note. And as you release it, you're going to slide into the D note at the 5th fret on the A string. With vibrato. And that gives the effect of a whammy bar when you're actually not using one. A lot of people are using whammy bars to play that. So. And now we're getting into some interesting chordal shapes and tricky little things that Eddie's doing. This is basically a C shape here with your middle finger on the 3rd fret, your index on the 2nd fret of the D. And so there's your traditional C. This C here is utilizing the 3rd fret of the B. But you're not actually strumming that note, so you don't really even need that finger on there, but it just kind of feels comfortable. You're muting the D string with your middle finger, which is on the 3rd fret of the A. So all you're really ringing out here when you're hitting this is the A string, the G string, and the B string, and you're muting the D. And then we're into this. So that is open A, 2 to 3, and this is all palm muted. Open D, open G. And then grabbing that 4th fret of the D string again. And then this chord is your index at the 2nd fret of the A and your pinky up here on the 5th fret of the D string. Just really grabbing those 2 notes. I often play it here with just my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A and ringing out the open D and open G string with it. And that gives it a little more weight. Eddie is doing this. I like that because the D works within this chordal structure. So up to that point, and then we're into this. And this is a little tricky as well. So we're going to go open A to 2 to 3, palm muted. But when you get to the that note there on the 3rd fret, you're going to grab the 2nd fret of the D string with it. And now you got to reach up here to the 5th fret of the low E with your pinky, and then back to the A power chord. And then the riff repeats. Now we're into pretty much a full D shape except for the bottom string. You can even get, you kind of want to rake this one with the open A right down the middle 4 strings. So up to that point, and then you're going to repeat the entire riff 5 times. And then you repeat that 5 times, and the very last time there's just a slight change before we get into the pre-chorus section, even though there is no chorus, real chorus in this song. I'm going to show you some of that as well, if I can squeeze it into like 6 or 7 minutes. So the very last time, you're going to do this, but this time you're going to pause slightly there in that shape. And then you're going to grab that note there at the 5th fret and you're going to bend it with your pinky. And then down to the A power chord. If you don't use your pinky a lot, you're going to find that difficult doing bends with your pinky up here. And now we're into the pre-chorus. Which is basically the exact same as the soft opening, the first phrase of the soft opening, except you're adding that little 1 to 2 on the D string. But with full gain this time. So the first time you're playing it the same way you play it at the beginning. The second time he's starting to get into playing little licks here and there, so he's changing it up. So the first time, now the second time, starts the same way. This time you're going to grab the 5th fret of the B string, and then you're going to make a little bar here at the 7th fret on the D, the G, and the B string. And then we're into this little lick. I'm out of tune ever so slightly. Sorry about that. So that's pulling off from 8 to 7 on the B string, grabbing the 7th of the G, up to 10 on the B, and then 10 to 8 to 7, and then ride it up the bar. And then back to the A power chord. Let me see where I'm out of tune here. No, seems to be okay. So, up to that point. back to the A power chord. And again. And now this time you're going to jump up here to do this tricky little lick. That is sliding from 15 to 14 on the high E. Do the exact same thing on the B string with a little mute between them. You hear that little mute that I threw in there? And that's 14 of the G, down to 13 of the B, and then pull off to 12, and then up to 12 of the G. And then we're into this chord. So that's basically a B, a full B power chord with your pinky on the 5th fret, and then releasing it. And then you're going to slide up the neck and then move that whole thing up to a D here at the 5th fret and play the exact same thing. And then after that, then you're going to slide into the 5th fret on the B and the E string. And then you're going to hammer on 5 to 7 of the G, and then 5 to 6 of the G. So, up to that point. And now we're getting into a little tricky chordal section here. That is a bar at the 3rd fret, and basically we're just working on the D, the G, and the B string. So a bar at the 3rd fret with your ring finger on the 5th fret of the G and your middle finger on the 4th fret of the B. And then release to the bar. And then we're into this chord, which is barring the entire 3rd fret with your pinky on the 5th fret of the G string. And that's tricky at speed. So up to that point, and we're almost done. And now we're into this. So that is hammering on, little legato work here, 3 to 5 to 7. Pick the first note, don't pick the next two. And repeat the same thing on the D string. And then you're going to, with your middle finger, reach up here and grab this power chord. Remember, we're in drop D tuning, so you can play power chords with one finger. That G power chord right there. Then move the whole thing up 2 frets and do it again. This time hitting an A power chord. Move the whole thing up 2 frets again. Repeat the first part. And then instead of going up to the power chord this time, move it up 1 fret and do it again. And now 3 power chords, 8, 10, 12. With a little mute between each one. So that final little bit from here. I played that too fast. One more time. you're going to kill your volume, and then we're into this lovely little part. Those are harmonics at the 7th fret on the A, the D, and the G. And then you're going to immediately go up here to a little A major bar chord at the 14th fret. And then 2 notes at the 16th fret of the G. Sorry. And then pull off from, what is that? 18 to 16 to 14. And then repeat that 2 frets down from 16 to 14 to 12. And then we're going to grab harmonics at the 12th fret on the A, the D, and the G. And then we're going to go 11, 9, 7, 5, 4. Very staccato. And when you get to that 4th fret, you're going to give it a half step bend with vibrato. And then when you're doing that, you're increasing your volume for the riff to kick back in. So that final little bit. Back into the riff. And that, my friends, is how you play Drop Dead Legs. That's pretty much all of it, except for the final solo where he just kind of goes off and it's kind of not really recreatable. And that would take me a half an hour to teach you guys the solo, so I'm not going to do that. But that's the main riff, and that's the pre-chorus section. And I hope you have fun with that. I hope you like my little talk about Van Halen. And we will see you next time. Thanks for checking in. Take care.